today is how selfish are you? And for a truly bizarre kind of twist, I'm going to start off by talking about myself. I mean, is that perfect for the topic or what? And so, all kidding aside, uh, I need to apologize. I'm actually a little under the weather today. So, for those of you who've seen me present before, if I seem a little off, yeah, I'm not 100%. So hopefully you'll just take that into account. So the topic is how selfish are you, and it is based upon my book, True Connections: Relationship Marketing in the Digital World, and it's based on the first chapter of that book. So let's go back to the presentation for a second. And if you're interested in the book, by the way, it is up on Amazon. So great. All right, so True Connections, relationship marketing in the digital world. Let's jump right in. Today, we're going to talk about why marketers are inherently selfish. We're going to talk about ways to maybe potentially avoid being a selfish marketer. We're going to talk about the importance of search intent, and we're talking about three-step framework to kind of align users. Now, with all that said, in the middle of this, I'm going to show you an example of how some really, really good people that we know, these are some we've worked with, these are some of the nicest people on the face of the planet. I'm going to show you the before and after, and I'll show you how even really nice people can be selfish and how to avoid doing that. So we'll show a real example. Well, here's the first question. Are you a selfish marketer? Now, maybe you're not a selfish marketer, but here's the thing. You are a selfish human being, okay? And I don't mean any disrespect by that, but we are literally hardwired to be selfish. And if you saw the video that I created on as a kind of a promo for this, I said, well, let me prove it to you. I said, have you ever been to a conference or even a party and you get introduced to somebody and about 3 seconds later you forgot their name, right? I mean, I've done it. We've all done it. We are so absorbed in ourselves, we are self-centered. And we are hardwired that way. And frankly, it's not your fault. Unfortunately, a lot of times what that does is that actually creates an opportunity for you to be selfish as a marketer. And I'm watching the questions just as an aside. So Chad asked the questions, will you be able to view this later if you need to step out? Yes, Chad, we are recording this. So it takes a few days for us to get that up and running, but yes. So we hope you stick, but we understand if you have to bail out. All right, so back to, are you a selfish marketer? Well, you're a selfish human being, all right, not Chad, and that wasn't personal to him. All right, so, but here's the thing. You're striving to place your visitors as your top priority, but we're wired, I mean, literally hardwired to be self-centered, okay? Which a lot of times means we're not actually doing what we need to do for our visitors. I mean, this is, again, human nature. So this goes back to, if you've ever read about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, all right, where, at the bottom of the pyramid, it's all about survival, okay? It's air, water, food, shelter, sleep, okay? Reproduction. And then as we move up in the triangle, all right, we get to all the way to the top to self-actualization. Well, here's the thing. Even as we continue to move up in that hierarchy, it said that we're still working on some type of self-centered driven need. All right, it's still about us. Now, so let me give you another example. This goes back to all the way back to Socrates, or Thomas Hobbes, and here's the thing. If you think about it, people engage, and this is what Socrates said, people engage in good behavior mainly for self-preservation or fear of punishment, right? And then Thomas Hobbes went a step further and he said, even voluntary acts like helping others or doing one's duty have ulterior motives to derives one pleasure. Let me give you an example of this. And I know this is going to sound a little strange, right? But if under the covers we're selfish, well, and you say, well, how does that explain people give to charity? Well, people give to charity because of how it makes them feel, right? They give to charity because they feel good that they did something. If they didn't feel good about giving to charity, okay, then they probably wouldn't do it. All right. So everything we do is all about how it makes us feel in some way. Does it make us feel safe? Does it make us feel loved? You know, is it hardwired into our system? Um, Freud was probably the most negative here. I mean, basically said we're all bad. Okay, I'm not sure I agree with that per se, but in the scheme of things, if we are at least self-centered, then what that means is everything we're doing with our websites, and that's primarily what we're going to talk about today, but really is about interaction with your clients and your visitors in general. But if we're already self-centered, then you can imagine what's going to happen here is we're going to think in that way. And so when we create websites and we create marketing campaigns, a lot of times we think about ourselves. And even when we think about the other person, even when we think about the visitor, a lot of times we can't help ourselves. That self-centered piece just comes back in. So no matter how good your intentions are, you know, you're human. Let's face it, we are wired this way. So let me take a moment and talk about something that changed my life. There were two books that I read that I have tried to live by, and it's hard. I will tell you it's hard because, again, we're hardwired. The first book is an oldie but goodie, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. And now this book is 100 years old, and yes, they've updated it, but there are so many fundamental principles in that book about how to think about the other person first, that if you do what he says in that book, which is to read it a couple times a year, you will have a better interaction with people. And if you have those interactions in person, you would have those same kind of good interactions with people on your website, all right, and in all of your marketing. So if you haven't already read Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People, I would strongly suggest you get a copy. And if you've already read it once and you're not reading it once or twice a year like he suggests, because we all fall back into bad habits, I would strongly urge you to consider that. The other book that I read, which was an interesting one, was What Women Want Men to Know by Beverly DeAngelis. And she's got a PhD, so it's Dr. DeAngelis. And this was a thick one. This took me a while to get through, but it really talked about, you know, how we're different and to understand each other's differences. And I will tell you that that book helped me not to, you know, be better with women. It helped me be better with everybody, men, women, children, because it made me start thinking about the other people and how they might be wired. So while maybe not as strong as an endorsement as the How to Win Friends and Influence People book, I would suggest, listen, we're human. Let's try to improve ourselves, and then let's use that in the marketing that we're doing. All right. So moving on, let's talk a little bit about digital marketing. I mean, that's really why you're here. And I forget who said this quote, digital marketing is a game that you don't play alone. I love that quote. And if I could figure out the attribution to it, I would. So I'll just throw that out to the universe. I apologize. I don't know where I heard it, but I just loved it. Okay. And you're never going to win if you only think of yourself. So really, you know, if you fulfill your customers' needs first, you are in such a better place to accomplish your own goals. When we onboard a client, one of the things that I say to them, and I've had this discussion multiple times, as I said, I may be working for you, but I'm going to be a relentless advocate for your clients or for your visitors. Because if we solve their problems with what you can, with your solution, then they're happy and you make money. So by being a relentless advocate for your visitors, your website visitors, because it's all about them, okay? If you do that, then all of the goodness from conversion rate optimization and revenue comes into play. All right, so visitor empowerment. At the end of the day, you have to align three things. Again, it's not about you. It's about the visitor. And so when somebody lands on a website, they really are, you have to align their user intent with their experience and your company goals. So silly. I'll give you a silly example. Let's say you forget your company goals for a second and you say, come to our website and we'll send you a free iPad. I mean, you get lots of traffic. I don't know you can make any sales on whatever it is you do, but you're probably making them very happy. It has to be all three. Now, the thing is, most companies have no problem remembering their goals. They do what we call the opera school of marketing. Me, it's all about me, right? That's what people do. And so they forget about that website experience and the customer's needs, and they're constantly pushing what it is that they want to sell and what it is they want the visitor to do. And guys, that just doesn't work. For this to truly work, you have to align those three things, which actually empowers your visitor. So the alignment is visitor intent, okay, their experience with your website. And oh, by the way, it goes beyond website and your company goals. And let's talk about that goes beyond website for a second. When they get an email from you, whether it's a transactional or a promotional email, if they chat with you, if they pick up the phone and call you, if they're reading your privacy policy, if they get, let's say you're an e-commerce store and you send the package, if the package looks like who did it and ran, every one of those experiences that you have with the client really needs to be top notch. So you have to do that alignment, not just on your website. You have to do that alignment across everything that touches your visitors. Okay. So I know it sounds like I'm beating a dead horse, but align user intent with their experience and your goals, and you will be successful. All right. You can't miss any of those. So when somebody comes to your website, assuming you're doing this and you want them to be the center of your universe, you might want to consider the principle of reciprocity. Now, what is the principle of reciprocity? It basically says, if we do something nice for you, you are potentially going to be willing to do something nice for us, right? And so an example of this, a bad example first, is you've all seen a lead gen site where they have a form where there's a billion questions on the form. All right, I'm exaggerating, but there's lots of questions on the form, right? Well, and it's to download a free guide. Really, do you really need to know who they are, how many employees, their revenue size, the list goes, their email, their phone number, their address? I mean, it's nuts, the things that people ask for to download a guide, all right? So what is the principle of reciprocity and how would you invoke it here? What you would do instead is you would make your visitor to the center of your universe, and you would let them download it, and nobody fall off your chairs out there or faint. You would let them download it without having to fill in anything as a lead. And you're like, well, how do I get my leads? If you give somebody high quality information, you've earned the right to ask for something back. Okay. And if you, in that downloadable guide or whatever that next piece of information is, if you give them really good stuff and then say for more information or to take the next step or something that goes on, they're now going to trust you. Because I don't know about you, but I personally have a couple of emails address. I have an AOL email address still. What do I use it for? I use it out for every single form that I'm not even remotely interested in having these people bother me. Okay. So what do? I put it in, and if they say, well, your thing is in there, or you have to validate your email address, I sign on to AOL, which I never do. I validate it, and then I go get the thing I wanted. Why? Because they weren't thinking about me. They were thinking about themselves. But if you turn it around and they actually give you stuff, I'm willing to give people my real email address because I want to hear from them. All right. Make your visitor the center of your universe. I'll go a step further with that. Okay. And again, I'm not trying to suggest you do this because this struck me as a little creepy. Okay. But there's a book written by this fellow, Stu, and I may not pronounce his last name right, Heineke, and it's How to Get a Meeting with Anybody. And the concept that he has is basically, there's so much information out there about people on LinkedIn and Facebook and social media and articles that you can find out what people are interested in. And if you find out what they're interested in, you could send them something that makes sense to them. So if you find out they're an average stamp collector, maybe you send them a book on stamp collecting. Or if you find out they're into, cooking or barbecuing, you send them a barbecue, apron. I know this sounds crazy, but I will tell you it does work. By giving somebody a gift, up front and say, you'd love to spend 5 minutes there, that does invoke the principle of reciprocity. It's a little creepy, I think, so I'm not suggesting you go that far, but I am suggesting that if you make your visitor the center of your universe, what happens is they will appreciate it and they will reciprocate by giving you good information. They will give you good good email. They will potentially buy your product. They might subscribe to your service, whatever it is you're doing. All right, I think I've pretty much beaten that one into the ground too. So what do we do that screams selfish? And we've seen this. And so if anybody, on this call is doing this, let me tell you what the first thing I hear is. Entry pops. You've all been to a site, and the first thing that happens is something pops up, and it says, it's screaming at us basically, hey, fill this out, get 10% off. The problem with that is it turns people off. You haven't earned the right to ask for their order. You haven't earned the right to ask for their email address. They don't know you. They potentially don't like you yet, and it's false. So here's the converse side of that. This is what people say to us. Well, when we put our entry pop up, our subscriptions increased by 10%. Yeah, really? All right, here's what that means. One, you're probably getting subscriptions to email addresses that aren't really good ones. Two, if you put on a pop-up and it is truly improving the metrics on your website, all that's telling you, or what that should be telling you, is that your underlying website isn't conversion oriented, isn't user focused, and is really doing an all around bad job. Okay. If you put an entry pop on a high converting, high performing site, the numbers go down. When the numbers go up, and go ahead and try this, if the numbers go up because you put entry pops, guess what? You've got a poorly performing website to start with. All right. Again, not meaning to make anyone feel bad, but we've tested this over and over and over again. All right, next on the list. All right. Let's look at MailChimp for a second. Someone comes here and they made this all about the visitor. Look good, grow fast, sell more. Look professional with a customer domain. Grow your audience with sign-up forms. Boost your sales with shoppable. This is all about me. They're talking to me. Okay. So how do you think I feel when I get here? As opposed to if they'd had a pop-up that said, get 10% off. I don't know anything about it. Well, MailChimp is frankly a brand, so you probably already know about them. But if you didn't know about them and they had some weird pop-up, you wouldn't have gotten to the goodness below potentially, right? So make it all about the visitor. All right. What else do people do? I love this. Cluttered purchasing processes. We've seen this, so, you're in this process, and what do they have you do? They have you sign up for a newsletter in the middle of the purchasing process. They have you, post on, Facebook that you like something. Why? First you get the order, then you maybe ask for, create your account or sign up for our newsletter or, whatever. But you've all seen this, whether it's in the cart area or it's actually in the checkout process. This drives me nuts. You're in the checkout process and then it says, sign up for our newsletter. Why in God's name would you ask anybody to sign up for a newsletter in the middle of a purchase process? Is that what you want them thinking about? Oh, do I want this newsletter? Do I feel good about this? Is this a good idea? No, this is not a good idea. First, you get the order, and then after you get the order, you ask them for other things. Don't interrupt their purchasing process with things that don't matter, okay? All right, overwhelming distractions. This is gonna sound terrible, but people are lazy, all right? Especially, and forgive me for those of you who are Americans like I am, we're some of the worst. And so if there's too much going on, if it's visually distracting, or if you've got lots of long text in here and it's not scannable, what happens is people get overwhelmed, they get distracted, they're reading. And, for all the phone rings, they get distracted, the doorbell rings, something happens, and they may never come back. You want to make sure that whatever you're giving them is scannable, easy to follow, so that they can actually go from point A to point Z, or however many steps you've got in between, without being distracted. All right. So you want to make everything you do not distracting, and you want to make sure that it is scannable. So for example, if you look at this with Uber, and this is, this is for, Uber Business, seriously, is there any question about what it is they want you to do here? You want to eat, you want to ride, you want to earn, you want to send freight, There's all of these things, and then you get to the business, make your teams, move your teams and employees. All right. So it's really clear they don't have a lot of distractions. It makes it so much easier for somebody coming here to very quickly scan, right? Look at that. You can scan that. Is there any thinking involved or much thinking involved? No, not really. All right. And that's the point. Here's another one of my favorite ones. We're the best, unique's this, world leader. I mean, just stuff that nobody knows about. You got to share measurable results. Say things like, instead, and I'll make these up because who knows who's on the call, but, it could be over 10,000 clients worldwide, or clients in 5 out of 7, continents. I mean, that's kind of impressive, right? Or, serving Greater Detroit since 1992. And you might say, well, how is that measurable? Serving Greater Detroit since 1992. Well, if Detroit is your market, what you're doing with saying since 1992 is you're saying you've got longevity and that you can trust us because we've been around. Obviously, if we weren't doing well, we'd be out of business, but we've been at this for almost 30 years now. So that's why serving Greater Detroit since 1992, as an example, would be showing something measurable. So instead of using, flowery words to describe who you are and deals, make it so that when they go there, they go, these are the guys. I feel comfortable with these people. These people are people that I can trust. All right. Hopefully that makes a ton of sense. So why are digital marketers selfish? All right. And it really comes down to, they don't mean to be, they just want their marketing campaigns to work. So having said that, there are a couple things that we see with clients over and over and over again. And some of it just breaks my heart, But I will tell you this, successful marketers don't rely upon tricks, okay? They provide value to their audience. So here's the first one. Business owners have the final say. And whether it's a business owner or if you're in a large corporation and it's what we call the HIPPO, the highest paid person's opinion, that's a problem, all right? So there could be somebody who's the boss in some way, shape, or form who says, I think it needs to go this way. I think it needs to go that way. I'll share a quick story, and this is a terrible story, but I was visiting with a client of ours. They were a $20 billion a year hardware manufacturer. And the executive vice president said to me, and he was in this meeting, and he basically was the hippo. And he said, well, Apple does it that way. And my response was, yeah, that's great, but you're not Apple, okay? Apple, if brands can get away with things that non-brands can't, and this was not a brand, all right? They were big, but they weren't necessarily a brand. And so having the hippo in this instance come in and dictate the way it needs to be didn't give them a winning strategy, all right? It's also hard to let go. So what do I mean by that? You create perfect content, you got this strategy, you've got all this stuff, and then you overload it with way too much information. And we've actually had people tell us this, well, we have to tell the visitor about this, and we have to tell the visitor about that, and we have to tell the visitor about whatever it is. And it's like, really? Some visitors may indeed be interested in all of that, but you have to chunk up the information so that those who want to scan can, and those who want to dig deeper can. It's not one size fits all. This reminds me of another instance I had where I was at a meeting, and this is a long time ago. I wasn't the salesperson. I was just there in the meeting, and the salesperson told me, and we were selling to, at the time, AT&T, and the salesperson said to me, Marty, tell them about such and such. And I was surprised because the client had just told us that they wanted to move forward. So I told him a little bit about it, and he said, Marty, tell them about this. And I almost looked at him like, what are you, nuts? But I told him a little bit about that. And then he said, Marty, tell him about this. And I said, well, guys, you're comfortable enough with everything we've talked to move forward with us, right? And they said, yeah, we are. He said, well, Marty, they need to know about this. No, they don't. Okay, we spent 2 hours, honest to God, we spent 2 hours because this person needed to tell the client, all right, everything that he could possibly think of. You've seen websites like that. Don't do it. For those who need to know more, fine, give them a way to get more. but don't throw up all over them with every piece of content you potentially have. It doesn't work. All right. We're using the best set of tactics. Now, tactics, and let's talk a difference about tactics versus, we'll call it principles or strategies. Tactics are based upon, what's working at the moment. So, tactics could be, how to use, Facebook effectively, how to use LinkedIn effectively, and so on. Versus, a strategy is, understanding what the messages have to be on a Facebook or on a LinkedIn and so on. Tactics come and go based upon what's happening in the world. Strategies tend to stay. So the problem with tactics is, even though something may be working right now, over time, they may not work going forward. So you constantly have to monitor those. And then the next one is overkilling with offers and requests, right? And so, and you've seen this, where you get to a website and it's just a blur of, sign up for this, sign up for that, get this deal, get that deal. It's too much. People can only process literally between 3 to 5 things. Now you might say, well, if that's possible, how do they buy stuff on Amazon that's got God knows how many things? Well, they start at a high level. They say, I want clothes, right? Well, that's a thing. And then within clothes, they want men's clothes. And then they go down to the next level. So they're chunking it down into individual things that make sense. And again, Amazon is a brand, so they get away with things. But if you're not a brand like that, you want to chunk down things so it makes it easier versus just confusing people. All right. So with that all said, all right, it's not about you. And that's actually the first chapter in the book. That's the title of the first chapter. It's not about you. So what I'd like to do right now is show you an example of a website. And so bear with me one second while I pull that up. And we're going to go to Blue Bungalow. Now, let me share something about these folks. These folks are in Australia. We worked with them for a while, and these are literally some of the nicest people on the face of the planet. I mean, they so care about their customers. It is mind-boggling how much they care. But I'm going to show you their About Us page, right? Now, they've redone the whole website, and there's a case study. If you're interested, I'll just show you where that is. There's a case study up on our website about Blue Bungalow and the tactical changes and how it increased, 31%, But having said that, let's just talk about this page, the About Us page, all right? And again, wonderful people who love their clients, right? So About Us, welcome to Blue Bungalow. All right, home of everyday fashion and dreamy summer styles for real women. And then they have what we call an army of words marching around the page looking for meaning, all right, because it's hard to read. It's just a block of text. But again, it's reasonably nicely written, from workplace to weekend, our weekday basis to resort wear. Blue Bungalow exists to represent and accommodate for the real modern woman in all her dimensions. And at the crux of it all, we recognize that confidence is key. Anyway, so this was their entire About Us page. And then at the bottom, they said, join the inner circle, whatever that is, okay? So we don't know. We turned this page, after a lot of work, into this. This is the live page now versus what was on the Internet Archive. So first off, again, we're welcoming people, but you'll notice a couple things. There's highlighted text in here, and the highlighted text is meant for the people to scan. Flattering, safe place, your friend in fashion, feel confident, look your absolute best. They gave me my confidence back. This page was written all for the user. Yes, it still says, the home of flattering fashion. We're so pleased you found your way here. The internet can be a little daunting if you've had a bad experience. You're in a safe place. So by turning this into something that was truly designed for the visitor, I'll cut to the chase. Their bounce rate on this page dropped by 76%, and their email signups at the bottom increased by 20%. And their emails, those signups are worth their weight in gold to them. I can't tell you how much, but they're worth their weight in gold. So if you look at this, founded in 2012, that was like the greater Detroit since, right? women all around the world, 3,000 styles, 150 brands, personalized service. We're trying to evoke that feeling here. And this is the About Us page. Now, this is an e-commerce site, right? And here I am focusing on the About Us page, which you might go, what? Okay, I'm telling you, working on, as crazy as it sounds, working on the About Us page and making it focus when it's about you, making it focused on them is a way to start thinking about your website overall. Look at this next section here. When you look good, you feel good. When you feel good, you're more confident. When you're more confident, you're more you. And when you're you, you're unstoppable. I'm telling you, this is a killer page now. And then you could join their private group where you can join, you find over 10,000 other women who share their sizing and styling tips. And then you'll wear it with confidence. This is a lot different than the previous page, right, guys? Yeah, I mean, look at all of this. We talk about the Blue Bungalow. This is the power of a good outfit. Yes, it's about Blue Bungalow. Yes, they are talking about them, but they're not doing it in a selfish way. Hopefully, and I know I'm kind of banging the drum here, but I'm telling you, this was weeks worth of work, and it paid off with very large sums of money for them. So this is what you need to do. And then at the end, join the Blue Bungalow inner circle, right? After all of that, their conversion rate for their subscriptions went up by 20%. So if you contrast this first page, and we were joking as we were working through this, we now talk about they talk about this they call this giving somebody some Marty love, right? Because I would constantly say, no, you're not giving me love here, you're not giving me love here. And so you need to give your visitor love, all right? And that's what this page does, as opposed to this. And again, I have to say this, these are seriously some of the nicest people on the face of the planet, yet their original page and their original website was more me oriented, and they didn't mean to. So for everybody on this call, okay, you don't mean to be the me selfish person, but we're hardwired. So if nothing else, I would suggest, read the case study, all right, see some of the things we did that made a difference, all right, and then start to try to apply, that love back into your site so that you lower your bounce rates, you increase your conversions, so on. All right, let's jump back into the presentation. And bear with me, there we go. All right, so how do you know if you're effectively bringing your brand message to your audience? I mean, really, that's what it comes down to. Remember, we talked about that it's aligning three things. Well, one of the first things here is user intent. Well, how do you know about user intent? There's a lot of ways to do that, but today we're just going to talk about search intent. If you look at what people are searching for, you can get a feeling for why they're coming to your website. And if you can use that search intent based on what they're looking for, and obviously pay-per-click is a great way to learn some search intent, what people are searching for. All right, you can see where they're coming. You can segment users based on where they are in the funnel. Are they looking to buy, or are they doing research? What mode are they in? So you can treat each user and with love, but separately based on what it is they're trying to do. So for example, here's a segmentation of Stratum C, specifically formulated for menopausal skin, right? That is a great example, okay, of segmenting for your visitor, all right? So if I have this problem and I go here, I'm going to feel like, oh, they're talking to me, right? That makes sense. And then you got to make sure that whatever the search intent was, when they land on the page, you actually match it. And this answers the question, which you'll learn in my book. There's 3 questions that people ask when they land on any page. Am I in the right place? How do I feel about this? And what am I supposed to do here? Well, if you match that intent, that user intent, that answers the question, am I in the right place? Because they're going to say, oh, yes, I am in the right place, and it makes sense. I'm going to show you a good example as opposed to a bad example here. So we worked with a client who was selling plus size clothing, all right? And all of the models on their site were extremely thin. And when I called them on that, they said, well, it's aspirational. And I said, no, it's not. It's insulting, all right, as odd as that sounds, okay? It was not aspirational. And so when we got them, and this is why I'm not showing their site, the change site, because I'm saying something bad to start with. But when we got to their site and we actually showed models of people who look like the people who were coming to buy, you know, that whole am I in the right place makes sense. Now, I know you would think this would be obvious, you know, but I'm telling you, this was a very, very large company and they weren't doing it right. So I don't want to assume that everyone is doing it right. So answer the question, am I in the right place? And then make them feel good, because this is, how do I feel about this? I'm going to feel good, pretty good, because you know what? They're talking to me, right? Hopefully that makes sense. All right. So what's the three-step framework for this? All right. It's all about your customers. Everything you do for conversion, it's about your customers. It's not about me. It's not about you. Okay. It's about your customers. I can't tell you how many times I've had this conversation with a client where they say, you know what, you know, that's your opinion. And it's like, no, we've tested this, you know, and we'll test this on your side. My opinion, and I say this to clients all the time, my opinion doesn't matter. Okay. And then they get upset when I say, and neither does yours. All right. What matters is the people that are going to give you money, the people that are going to be your leads, the people that are going to subscribe, the people that are going to buy your product. Those are the people that matter. And you can test it. If you do all these things about aligning the intent with the experience and your goals, it will absolutely work. Okay. So first step. Okay. Hi, Irving. Thank you for that, buddy. I appreciate it. No, really. I mean, all kidding aside, I have a sore throat. I'm not feeling great, but maybe this is better this way. I don't know what to tell you. Okay. All right. So step number one, identify your goals. You know, and this is going to sound crazy. All right. But I will tell you that we've actually changed people's business models multiple times, because, you know, there's doing things the right way and there's doing the right things, which are two different things, right? So if you do things the right way, you might have a better performing site, but you're going after the wrong goal. And we've actually changed people's goals. So one of the examples, I'll give you a crazy example. We'll go back to the lead generation concept where I said, you know, don't have them fill out the form. We actually had a very successful engagement where we got rid of the form. It lowered the number of leads that they got, but it increased the quality and they made more money. Okay. They were going after the wrong thing. They kept going, we need more leads. We need more leads. We need more leads. No, you don't. You need more money. So how do you get more money? By having good leads. All right. And having those people sign up and do something with you. Right. So it's all about making sure you're going after the right goals. All right. I think I pretty much beat that one into the ground. So here's an example, you know. Is there any confusion about what this is? Review websites, get paid within 2 days. So if I need money and I'm willing to do this, this is a really nice example. It tells me exactly what it is, right? It's clear, it's called, I love the call to action. Start earning today, right? This is wonderful stuff, all right? They know what their goals are. They're aligning it with the user intent. This makes a ton of sense, okay? Find out what the visitors are looking for. We've already talked about search intent. There's a number of ways to do this, right? But are they coming to compare prices? Are they looking for, you know, what you offer? Are they looking to see what's in the market? Are they using keywords like, you know, buy, price, order, you know, or are they just consuming content? Are they trying to research things? All of this type of search intent leaves clues. If you know who they are, you can segment by those types of people based on where they are in your marketing funnel so that you can drive people to the right place. You want to make sure that they consume the right content. So with all of that said, okay, you really just want to make sure that you get to know your customers better. Now, you'll notice that on the bottom here, it says digital marketing allowing you to measure, you know, demographics, bounce rates, conversion rates. I just want to say one thing here. And we've learned this. And I hope you all know this already, but I will tell you, there is a direct correlation to bounce rate, all right, time on site and conversion rates, okay? And I will tell you that if you look at where people are going on your site and where they're bouncing, and if you can lower those bounce rates and increase the time on site, and this works regardless of what kind of page it is, you will increase your conversion rate. And let me go to the mother of all bounce rate pages, your blog. If you do something we call content for conversion, you not only will lower your bounce rates, but your visitors will consume more content and they will actually raise their hand and sign up for the next thing. If you go to our blog, we actually do what we say. We do this for some clients. It's all about making it easy to consume so that it's bite-sized, chunkable, and it's got great calls to action. All right. So lowering the bounce rate, and we watch this like a hawk on our sites and on our client sites. If you lower the bounce rate, increase that time on, including on blog pages, as crazy as that sounds, you will wind up with a higher conversion rate. All right. So more sources of customer data. We're not going to go into all this today. You're going to get the slides, so it's pretty straightforward, but there's lots of ways to do this. But at the end of the day, okay, you need to make sure that your visitors have a good experience. If your visitors don't have a good experience, guys, you can't be the me person, and you can't be the one that ignores what they want, right? So if you give them what they're looking for and it aligns with your goals, all right, that's going to work, okay? So it really comes down to, when they land on your site, you got to ask the second, they got to answer the second question. How do I feel about this? And this is why logos and trust symbols and things that make them go, yes, I'm in the right place, but yeah, I feel safe. Let them feel like they're in control. If you do that, this will increase, okay, your conversion rates. Well, another old friend, hello, priceless, huh? Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Hopefully you're feeling better. Last time we talked, you were sick. It wasn't me. So, all right. Anyway, and simplify the process. Okay, I can't tell you how many times, you know, we've seen things in the buying process where there's leaks. Why would anyone have a traffic leak in their buying process to go to yet some other page or do something different is completely beyond you. So here's what I say. Don't make me think. Don't make your visitors think, because if you do that, you're going to wind up losing your visitors. All right. So I kind of rushed at the end a little bit because we were going to keep this to 45 minutes. All right. And so I apologize if I rushed on the last couple ones, but I wanted to give you as much value as I could. But here's what I would ask you all to do. Based on this, I would ask you to go and look at why people are coming to your website. Okay. Use some of the search intent, you know, look at in your pay-per-click, you know, look at what pages they're landing on, right? And figure out, what are they trying to accomplish here? And then based on just this one simple thing, you know, why are they coming to this page? Are we answering the need of what they're coming for? And does this align, at least at the top of the funnel or in the middle of the funnel, of, well, what our goals are? So if you could go away and think about, well, I'm trying to make you go away, but if you go away and think about that, all right, this will actually make a difference to you in your conversion rate. And so with all that said, let me just say this following thing. This is the first in a series of webinars that we're doing, all based on chapters out of my book. So if you'd like to get a head start on it, you're certainly welcome to get a copy of the book. It's up on Amazon, okay? Or stay tuned. Once a month, we're going to have one where we're going to go in depth, just like we did today, on some of the other chapters. This first one was a little harder just because this was the introduction. We're going to get into some more meaty things later on throughout the course of the year. But having said all of that, hopefully you've walked away with something. And I just want to, hi, Todd. So Todd's asking for a signed copy. Todd is a friend of mine, and so Todd, I will get you a signed copy. And so that's fair. And so, all right, folks. With that being said, thank you all for coming today. If I can be of assistance in any way, feel free to connect with me up on LinkedIn. You know, feel free to give us a call. Feel free to give me an email, marty@SiteTuners.com. Would love to hear what you thought. Thanks for joining. Hope you have a great rest of the week. Take care now.